Let's dive right into today's explainer by exploring a massive, almost universal tension in project management today. I'm talking about the conflict between the incredibly anxious drive for ROI and the strategic need for team well being. It's a tightrope walk, right? You've got tight deadlines, competing priorities, and just sky high expectations. On one hand, there's this relentless pressure to deliver results and maximize your return on investment. But on the other hand, you have the undeniable human reality of your team's mental health. Too often, we treat these things as totally opposing forces. But as we unpack the source material today, we are going to see exactly why that mindset is fundamentally flawed and why mental health is actually your absolute strongest business strategy. This brings us to a question that honestly haunts project managers everywhere. You know the exact feeling. Deadlines are slipping, everyone is putting in these brutal 10 to 12-hour days, the coffee is just constantly flowing, Slack is buzzing away at midnight, and yet the project is still stalling out. Errors start creeping in, creativity is completely blocked. And you have to wonder, if we're putting in all this sheer effort, why on earth aren't the results matching the input? Well, the answer is actually hidden right there in the data. According to Gallup, a staggering 76% of employees experience burnout at some point in their careers. Just let that sink in. That is over 3/4 of your workforce. And this isn't just a personal struggle for those individuals. It acts as a massive, heavy drag on your entire operation. Burnout leads straight to physical and emotional exhaustion, which just instantly starts tanking your baseline productivity. Because of this mental health strain, workers are currently only performing at 72% of their full capability. Think about what that actually means for your day-to-day. You are missing out on nearly a third of your team's potential performance capacity simply because they're operating under extreme mental strain. It's literally like trying to run a high-performance engine on terrible fuel. That missing 28%, that represents your missed deadlines, your stifled innovation, and your compromised quality. But what if we flip the script here? Instead of just cracking the whip harder to try and squeeze out that missing capacity, Harvard Business Review data shows something amazing. Teams with strong mental health support actually report a 23% higher productivity boost. It's a real game changer. Investing in the mental well-being of the team yields a massive, highly measurable return on investment. It turns out, supporting people is quite literally the most effective way to unlock their potential. So it all comes down to this core idea. If you care about productivity, you absolutely must care about mental health. Mental health isn't some soft perk. We're not talking about throwing a ping pong table in the break room or handing out a meditation app subscription. It is the ultimate business strategy for sustainable performance. You literally cannot achieve peak operational efficiency if the humans running those operations are fundamentally exhausted and completely unsupported. Which leaves us with the million-dollar question, right? How can we actually demand high accountability, push for true excellence, and hit our targets without triggering that dreaded burnout zone? Because let's be real, lowering our standards isn't an option. We still have projects to deliver. The goal isn't to create this consequence-free environment where nothing ever gets done. The real goal is to build an environment that can handle high pressure without completely fracturing. And the foundation for that kind of super resilient team comes from Harvard professor Amy Edmondson. It's a concept called psychological safety. This is the absolute bedrock of a healthy work culture. It's the core belief that you won't be punished or humiliated for speaking up with ideas or questions, concerns, or even mistakes. When people feel truly safe, they stop wasting all their energy trying to hide their errors or cover their tracks, and instead they channel all that mental energy directly into collaboration and problem solving. So if you think about how psychological safety interacts with accountability, you can clearly see exactly where performance and well-being intercept. If you have low safety and low accountability, you land in what's called the apathy zone. People just genuinely don't care. Now, high safety but low accountability, that puts you in the comfort zone. It's super nice, sure, but absolutely nothing gets done. The real magic, and honestly the real danger, happen when accountability is pushed high. See, when you demand high accountability but provide low safety, you are thrust right into the anxiety zone. Tasks absolutely must get done, but there's zero room for vulnerability, which leads to incredibly rapid burnout. But combine high accountability with high safety, and you enter the learning zone. This is absolutely crucial. The learning zone is the only place where mental health, innovation, and engagement can truly flourish together. People are highly challenged, but they feel supported enough to actually rise to that challenge. Now I know what you might be thinking. Let's look at your reality as a leader for a second. When the project is literally on fire, taking a break feels like a dereliction of duty. You might be sitting there thinking, if I step away to recharge, I'm dropping the ball for the whole team. It often feels entirely selfish to prioritize your own mental health when your entire team is heavily depending on you to navigate them through the storm. But here's the reality check. It's called the leadership ripple effect. A leader's well-being directly dictates the entire team's capacity and culture. When you neglect your own mental health, it creates clouded judgment, poor communication, and this really toxic reactivity. Basically, your stress immediately becomes the team's stress. Conversely, when you prioritize your well-being, you foster a culture of balance, you dramatically improve your decision-making, and you create a psychologically safe space for everyone else. Your decision to pause mathematically translates into a stronger team. It's a chain reaction. It starts when you model self-care, like actually leaving on time or taking a real lunch break instead of just inhaling food at your desk. Because you do that, the team suddenly feels psychologically safe to set their own boundaries without fear of being penalized. And because they are finally resting and recovering, their productivity, creativity, and resilience naturally skyrocket. So, this leadership mindset shift, it's completely non-negotiable. Mental health is not a luxury, it is a necessity for sustainable success. It is the solid bedrock upon which all of your long-term ROI is actually built. Burning the candle at both ends is simply not going to help you win the long game of leadership. Okay, so how do we actually pull this off in the real world? It's really great to talk about the learning zone and psychological safety in theory, but how do you track that on a random Tuesday when everyone is remote and just buried deep in their tasks? We need a practical, tangible way to take the team's temperature in real time. Enter a brilliant concept called the beach flags ritual. Think about it, just like flags on a beach that signal if it's safe to swim or if there are dangerous rip currents, will your team's behavioral flags tell you exactly how safe your work environment currently feels. It's a beautifully lightweight diagnostic tool to help you spot early warning signs in the team's atmosphere long before people actually drown in burnout. Let's break these down, starting with the urgent red flags. If high stress is just accepted as the way things are around here, or if every single task is treated as a life or death emergency, your team has slipped deep into the anxiety zone. They're operating purely in survival mode. You'll start noticing dead silence in meetings, this universal exhaustion across the board, and a total lack of new ideas because, frankly, people are just trying to keep their heads above water. Then you've got your yellow flags. These are your early warning signals that the team's mental health is straining and needs your immediate attention. You might notice people kind of hesitating before sharing concerns, maybe a slight uptick in avoidable small mistakes, which usually points straight to cognitive overload, or team meetings that suddenly feel incredibly tense and way too formal. And finally, the green flags. This is where you want to be. This confirms the team is operating safely inside that highly productive learning zone. People are openly asking for help without any fear of looking weak. They're taking breaks without feeling guilty, work is distributed fairly, and they can disagree respectfully without it ever turning into a personal attack. Crucially, you'll see that humor and appreciation are still very much alive and well. Turning this awareness into continuous improvement is actually super simple. Every morning, team members just share a flag color, green, yellow, or red, to describe exactly how they're feeling. Then, at the end of the week, you hold a brief 60-minute conversation to look at the patterns. And most importantly, you collaboratively decide on just one small change to improve things for the following week. To see just how powerful acting on these flags can be, let's look at a quick real-world example from our sources. There was a mid-sized marketing team showing severe red flags, totally running on fumes, incredibly stressed, and creatively blocked from back-to-back meetings. Their solution was brilliantly straightforward. They just eliminated meetings for one single day a week, creating no meeting Wednesdays. And the ROI of that one simple change was absolutely massive. Given the actual space for uninterrupted deep work, their productivity just skyrocketed. Stress levels plummeted because the team finally felt like they were in control of their workload again. The quality of their output naturally improved. And, ironically, the meetings on the other 4 days became significantly more effective because people actually had the time to prepare for them. So, balanced leadership isn't just some nice-sounding theory. It is practical, measurable action. I'll leave you with this final thought. What is one immediate step you can take today to foster a healthier work environment for yourself and for your team? I challenge you to really look at your own practices. Whether it's modeling self-care, trying out the beach flags check-in, or blocking out a dedicated focus day, just take that first step. Because at the end of the day, your leadership sets the tone for a truly resilient, high-performing team.